It's the truth about parenting. Something needs to be real for us. The truth is in the raw things that people don't talk about. This journey is not for the weak. Welcome to the Mama Jack podcast. Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Mama Jack podcast. I have again with me my mother, the mama of the Mama Jack. Today, we are going to talk about her history of illness and being a mother through all of that. I've actually shadowed a thing or two as well, so we'll have conversations around that too. So welcome back, Mom.
Thank you for having me back.
We're going to talk about the whole history, okay?
Yeah.
From what I remember, because this is a part of my journey as well, right? And I want to see it from your side because everybody's kind of heard it from my side on the podcast, and you were parenting through all of this. So that's a whole other aspect to this. Now, we can relate to the first thing I'm going to talk about 100%. Which was your mental breakdown when I was around 7 years old.
Maybe a little bit older than that. Maybe you're right, yeah.
Yeah, I was in first grade. What happened with that whole process with you? What led up to it? What was,
it was definitely having children. It was postpartum that they didn't recognize way back then.
Yeah. Like
definitely.
All those years later, just the overwhelm, the overstimulation, not having time for yourself. And we all know back in the 80s, 90s, that wasn't even a thing.
No.
Like, women did not get time for themselves. Like, I mean, no. You know, that just wasn't a thing. Leading up to that, what were your signs that it was coming? Like, did you really have any?
Once I had you, I had a little bit of depression maybe for a month or two. But then once I had your brother, 2 years later, there was nothing that led up to it. It was once I was home with the two of you, and the first day your dad had to go back to work, that's the day it hit. And I don't ever remember thinking about it before that moment. And I told you before, I've told you the story. I sat on the floor with both Ians crying, changing both of your diapers, and me crying with the two of you.
Now, from that time till I was 7, I mean, that's a long time.
Yeah.
Were you kind of going through it the whole time?
I would say after a few months, it got less and less. But I always had that depression inside me, just not as deep as when I first had Timmy. Maybe because your hormones start to get back, and then it was okay for a while. I'm trying to think if there was any. I think what hit me was some point in my life, you kids in school, me working full time, issues cropped up maybe with you in school or Timmy in school. And me working, I think I felt a little bit of guilt. And I think that's might be what set it off. And then it just got worse and worse. I just got so tired. You know, getting up every morning, getting you ready for school, having to drive you wherever we had to drive you. You know, worry about getting childcare for you after school till we got home. Me working shifts and everything. It would just go crazy.
Yeah.
And I think it just one day just hit me all at once. That morning in the kitchen, and I said to your dad, I don't remember how to make a peanut butter sandwich. And he like, what? And that was it. And then I know there were many times before that I would drive home and think, I'm going to drive my car off the cliff. Or coming home and saying, I'm going to leave the exhaust running in the garage, but I can't do that because Amanda's come from school first and she would find me dead in the garage. That's what saved me, the kids.
Yeah, that was me too.
Yeah.
And So I openly talked about almost feeling resentment towards my kids because of that. Did you ever feel that way towards us?
No, that's weird. I never did. I always blamed me for it. Always me. And I think it's because I made the decision to go back to work. I made these decisions. So I always blame me. I never resented you guys because of it. Never.
Yeah. See, I didn't resent them because I was depressed. I resented them because I didn't want to be here so bad. And they were the ones keeping me here. Like, I was like, damn, if I wouldn't have had them and I was in this situation, no one would freaking miss me. But I don't want my kids to not have a mother.
Right.
And I was pissed almost for a while about that. And
yeah, that's totally different. My situation was totally different than yours.
yeah. So you made the decision to not go into a hospital. You went to a hospital.
I went to a hospital because it got so bad. I was seeing a psychologist, was not helping at all. Yeah, maybe they taught me how to breathe through a panic attack or something, but it really wasn't helping. I got desperate and called them up and said, I'm going to kill myself. So you better decide something. And immediately that night they said, meet this doctor at the hospital. And me and your dad met with him, and I said, you're my last chance, or I'm done with this world. And he looked at me and said, no, I'm your first chance. And then he looked at your dad and said, should we keep her here? And your dad said, no, I think we can handle her at home. And then we went home and I started my meds. And within 1 week, I told him, oh my God, the cloud has lifted from above my head. I felt so good. I couldn't sleep. It went on for a couple of weeks before he said, no, we got to give you something to sleep. You have to sleep. But totally changed.
Yeah.
And then I knew it was chemical. I had to believe in these drugs. I had to, because talking about it was not resolving anything.
Yeah. No, I agree. Because, I mean, I think there's a certain point that you can help yourself, right? But whenever you're in a spiral so far down, I mean, you need another tool. Like, breathing doesn't always get you through it because your brain is like... So it's like, you need that medicine to calm you down. That's why I always tell people, like, and it doesn't have to be permanent. Now, you've been on yours for a really long time.
And I probably don't need to be on it. I probably didn't need to be on it a year or so after I took it.
Yeah.
I was just so fearful of going off of it and going back to that time.
Yeah.
So I would tell my doctors, no way, you're not taking me off this. No way.
Yeah. Now, do you think that situation afterwards kind of carried on in your life at all? Like, did you have any moments where maybe you were feeling a little depressed and you got scared that you were going to go back into that?
Oh, yeah. But you know what? Then I realized when these depressed times come, they're normal depressions.
Yeah.
What you should be depressed about. Losing my dad, whatever. They weren't like that at all. And that again reiterated the chemical imbalances. Yeah. It's when I again believed in the medications. And, definitely.
Okay. So.
But I've never gone back to that.
Yeah.
In my whole life, I have never gone back to that.
Yeah. Well, that's great. That's hopeful for me, too.
Yeah, I've never gone back.
So let's go down the road a couple years. I'm 12 years old. Now, I'm going to tell you what I remember.
Okay.
And you tell me what you remember.
Okay.
I remember I was playing outside with friends. And all of a sudden, you were getting carried out of the house in a chair.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember smiling at you, and you didn't smile back. And I was like, oh my God, what is going on? And nobody really explained much. Like, I think maybe somebody said you had a stroke, but I was also young, so I didn't expect like a whole explanation at that time. What happened in that situation?
Oh, boy. I knew I was having a stroke because my mom had two and passed away from the second one. So I knew the symptoms. I knew what was going on. That's what was going through my head at the time. You got to remember, my mom had her first stroke when I was 8 and then died from her next one when I was 19.
Mm-hmm.
So my whole life up to then, I feared having that stroke.
Mm-hmm.
In my 40s.
Mm-hmm.
And what was I? 42,
Mm-hmm.
having a stroke. So that just panicked me even more. And another thing, I remember going to the hospital and then putting me in a room and nobody was in there with me. And I'm thinking, I thought when you had a stroke, they had to give you something right away, dissolve. I think they screwed up. I really do. Because then it was maybe an hour later, the doctor came in and said, oh, yeah, I think maybe you did have a stroke. Oh, yeah, you didn't know that. I had to go to the bathroom. They said, okay, here, come on, get up and go. I couldn't even walk. I looked in the mirror and saw my mouth was...
Yeah.
They didn't notice that. They did not notice that.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah.
So you were lucky that...
that it didn't go any further than it did.
Yeah. My God.
Yep.
That is scary.
Yep, that was what they did in those days. They just, because I was so young, they thought, oh, she's not having a stroke. Then I have to remember my mom had one in her 40s. It was nuts. They didn't believe it. Even the EMTs that came said, oh, you're probably having an allergic reaction to something. And I was like, listen, I know what it's like to have a stroke. I know a lot about strokes, and that is not an allergic reaction to something. Yeah, that was crazy.
Were you able to think in those moments and just not speak?
Because you have to remember, it was a TIA, which is the whatever, transient something. It wasn't an actual hit you stroke, you're going to be paralyzed. You can't remember, you can't speak, you can't do anything. It's temporary. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to say within 2 hours of being in the hospital, I was starting to get feeling back in my arm and my leg. Mm-hmm. My mind was clearer. I could talk better, but again, I walked into the bathroom to look in the mirror and I still had the droopy mouth and everything for about a week or so.
Yeah.
But no, it passed, and I know they gave me blood thinners and stuff. And then they did the MRI and said, yeah, we could see the little clot that was hit this part of your brain.
So having kids at home, I don't really remember what your healing process was.
I don't think it was a lot at all.
Yeah?
Yeah, once, I think I was in the hospital for less than a week. Mm-hmm. Once they did the MRI, and they sent me home with, they sent me home with cholesterol medication because it was very high. That's when they found it was very high. And that's what they blamed it on. And I don't think I was home for a week or so before I was finally back to work.
Wow.
Yeah, it was nothing.
So, and you didn't have any post-traumatic stress from that because your mom died in the
No,
blood?
because at that point I was on the antidepressants already.
Yeah.
So that kind of settled that thought down, especially that I knew wasn't as bad as my mom's. Because when I was 8, she was completely paralyzed on her left side. Mm-hmm. So no, it didn't. That really didn't.
Yeah. And when you found out it was a stroke or you were on your way to the hospital, what was going through your mind whenever people were saying that type of stuff? And do you remember me smiling at you?
No. I remember Ian's being in the yard. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I remember Ian's were outside. And actually, I thought you guys waved on the ambulance,
We did.
too.
We did.
Because that was when our house numbers were all messed up and they couldn't find the house.
They thought we were just waving.
Yeah.
And I was like, no, because somebody said they had called 911. I don't remember if it was it just you and Dad in here or was somebody here visiting?
I think Amanda might have been here, too, inside. She wasn't outside with you guys.
Yeah.
You and Jimmy were outside.
I feel like there was a friend there,
There could have been.
Yeah.
I can't remember who it was, but there could have been.
And at this point, after the mental breakdown, and honestly, I don't blame you guys for any of this, but I feel like that whole situation wasn't explained to me the way it was. I never took it seriously. It's not that I didn't take it seriously.
Yeah, I understand.
I never thought it was serious because the first thing that happened, that was really traumatic for me because what happened in school. I stopped wanting to go to school. Mm-hmm. I wanted to be with you.
Yeah.
And I think that whole situation kind of changed my brain a little bit when it came to anything with you. Do you remember having a talk with us at all about either of those situations?
No, not at all. No, I definitely didn't.
Yeah.
That was my fault. I definitely did not.
Was it like even a thought in your
No.
mind after either?
No, I don't think so.
I don't even
No.
know if Dad talked to us about it. Because I feel like I remember.
Dad, I think, was even confused about it, but no, I don't think he did either. Because his family really didn't talk about things either, so.
So that's just the way he was
That's probably the
conditioned.
way he was.
Yeah. Okay. So we're going to fast forward a couple years later.
Yeah.
Literally like 3 years later.
Yeah.
And you found out it was stage 3 ductal carcinoma.
Yeah. Stage 3A.
Okay.
Which was atypical breast cancer, which most women get.
Yeah. And I have recently found out that I have like the precursor to ductal carcinoma. Like there is nothing metastasized in me at all, but they're checking me every 6 months because I am high risk because of my mother having it. So this is something that I am also like not dealing with. Obviously, I don't have it, but it's always in the back of my mind because of you. So
Well, it has to be, yeah.
First, let's talk about your experience through
When I
all
first
of that.
found out, I remember getting a mammogram and them saying it's fine. Then about 6 weeks later, I was doing a self-exam and I thought I felt a lump. So I called my gynecologist and made an appointment and showed it to him, and he said, yeah, but it's very small. Let's just wait a little while. And I looked at him and said, because I just had the mammogram, and I said, no, I don't think I want to wait a little while. So he said, okay, we'll send you back up for a mammogram and an ultrasound. So I said, okay. So I can remember going up there and getting it done. And it was when I had the mammogram. They called me in a room and they showed me the one they had done maybe 2 months before that. And the one they just did. And said, do you see this? This was not in this picture. There is something there. But then they said it was because of the dense breast tissue.
Yeah.
That they could probably not see it.
Yeah.
So then when they ultrasounded it and saw the shape of it, I said, is it good or is it bad? They said, most cancers are not round, and this is not round. So right away, they pretty much are telling me it's cancer. But they weren't going to give me that conclusion till it was biopsied.
Yeah.
And then I don't really remember getting it biopsied, even though I know I did. But I remember going to my gynecologist and him with your dad and him saying, yes, it's breast cancer. And you're probably going to have surgery, maybe chemo, maybe radiation. But I can remember when I left the mammogram and the ultrasound, them saying that it probably is cancer, sat in my car and cried. For 20 minutes, I had to refrain myself. I had to calm down before I could drive home. Then I do remember coming home and laying it on your sister, saying, oh my God, Amanda, I have breast cancer. And that's when I think I traumatized her. I believe that's when it changed her whole mental outlook on life. But I didn't have a bad experience with the hospital or nothing with that. They were all so good. Like, I had heard horror stories from other women. Oh, I hated them. I hated this. They treated me. They treated me like gold. They were so good with my surgery. The oncologist, well, that's why I'm back to that oncologist. He was wonderful. You know, he looked at me and your dad and said, if we cure this, what do you want out of your life? And I said, I want to be able to see my grandchildren someday. And he said, I guarantee you will. And did the chemo and the radiation, and 21 years it was gone.
Yeah. Yeah. And how did that feel going through all of that with us in the house? Because that's a lot to do.
It was a lot.
Having a stroke, having a mental breakdown without kids is a lot. So, like, when we're spinning around and doing all of our things, like, were there bad
And then I
times?
still worked.
Yeah, I remember that.
I still worked full time.
Were there bad days where you honestly
yeah.
just wanted to be left alone?
Yes.
And
But your dad knew that.
Uh-huh.
Your dad was a godsend because he knew that he took care of everything. He took care of you guys.
Mm-hmm.
He would pitch in every way he possibly could.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't have picked a better person to be with the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm.
That, if I had things to change in my life, he would not be one thing I would change. I would not change him.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, he was a big help. Definitely. And again, I was exhausted. I was sick. You know, the chemo made me sick. It gave me the bone pains. But, I mean, I was still young, I guess, in my 40s.
Yeah.
And I was going to fight it. It wasn't taking me down.
Yeah.
So
how did you feel about telling us? Because you had already gone
that
through
was
a mental
scary.
breakdown, a stroke, and now there's
yeah,
this
that
to tell
was
us.
scary telling you guys. And I know it hit you guys because I still remember Timmy telling me they were going to do a concert at his school in chorus and dedicate it to me, having breast cancer. Yeah, that hit you guys, and that hit me more than having the stroke with you guys. Was this cancer I know was going to affect you guys the rest of your lives. Yeah, that I felt bad. Not guilty, it wasn't my fault, but I felt bad that this had to happen in your lifetimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
And I remember when I was in beauty school, everybody was telling their stories of their first haircuts and when they, oh, I used to cut my Barbie's hair. I used to cut my doll's hair. I was the kid that shaved their bangs off. My first haircut was shaving your hair before Heather came.
Yeah, that's right.
And
you gave me the reverse mohawk.
Yes. So when it came to me saying that, everyone was like jaws to the ground. Like, what the hell are you doing here? That sounds really traumatic, Jackie. But I just remember you were sad. And I was like 15, 16 years old at the time. And I just wanted to make you laugh.
Yeah, my hair was falling out that morning. I can remember going like this and huge clump was there. And then you came into my room and said, I'll cut it for you. I said, okay. So I gave you the scissors and away you went. Then you said, look, and I had like this reverse mohawk on my head, and we both laughed. I had to laugh about that. I can remember coming down the steps being bald, looking in the mirror, saying, I look just like, quick, give me a light bulb. I look just like Uncle Fester. Yeah.
Yeah, but I always thought it was so cute. I don't know. I thought it was so cute. And I don't think I really understood the pain that you were going through,
I
tried
to hide it. I definitely hid it. Your dad saw it. Mm-hmm. When Yins would be in bed at night and I'd be up there moaning in pain, your dad would come up and listen to me complain, make me something to eat, do whatever he had to do. Yeah, he was a godsend. Yeah, it was tough, but I tried to hide it from you guys. And I knew I had to keep my spirits up. That's what was going to get me through it. Mm-hmm. And anytime I went to a doctor's visit and they'd look at me and say, the way you're acting now is what's going to get you through this. Mm-hmm. And they still tell me that today.
Yeah.
They do.
Okay.
You have to stay positive. I don't care how hard it is, have to stay positive.
So we'll be coming back to this, believe it or not. But there's a couple more things that happened in between. Yes, I said it, everybody. A couple more things that happened in between. This woman has been through a lot of shit.
The doctors even say, oh my God, I am so sorry with all the stuff you have been through.
So, my graduation night, you went to the hospital.
Oh, yeah.
What was that?
They claimed that this happens to some people, that I had pinched off one of my arteries and it would make you feel like you're passing out.
Yeah.
Okay. I don't believe that.
Yeah.
I actually believe today it was the start of the aneurysm happening.
Yeah.
Because it was the aortic valve that comes through your stomach, and that's where my aneurysm was. Mm-hmm. And that's what I believe would happen that night.
Okay. So then we go a couple more years. I was like 21 years old, maybe. Yeah, no. 22, 21.
You were already in L.A.
I was in L.A. because I got a flight home from a family friend. That was your aneurysm, correct?
That was the small intestine, the tumor they found on my small intestine.
Okay.
Because remember, I was in Shadyside.
Yeah, and what led up to that? Because I wasn't here. I don't quite remember, like...
It wasn't supposed to be that bad of a surgery.
Yeah.
But then once I got out of surgery and I was fine and went into my room, Amanda noticed my breathing kept dropping. So when she called the nurse called the doctor and said she needs to go back to intensive care. So when they put me back in, that's when it dropped really low, and someone called you and said your mom's really sick, her oxygen's really low. And
Well, I called Dad and I said, should I come home? And he's like, no, you're fine, you're fine, you're fine. And I remember calling him the next day, and that's when it dropped lower. And because it was like a couple days, it was very low. I don't know if they
really
told
low.
you that, but like...
I knew it was low. They had me on the CPAPs.
Yeah. And I remember asking him again, and he was like, if you want to, you should come home. So I flew the F home.
Yeah,
as
well,
quick as that day.
That was when your cousin told you, oh my God, you know, it's so low, she's going to die. That's only because when her mother died, her oxygen kept dropping.
Yeah.
So she thought with mine dropping, that was going to happen to me too. Unbeknownst to her, during that night when you were flying home, my oxygen started to climb.
Yeah.
So they were more worried about organ failure.
Yeah.
Because he told me the fluid in your lungs, it could be drained. We could, I'm worried about your kidneys failing or something like that.
Yeah.
Which didn't happen.
Okay.
The next morning when you came, they were actually thinking about putting me back in a room.
Okay. And that was that the wound vac or no?
Mm-mm.
Okay. So then you had your aneurysm.
Yeah, which was a quick surgery.
I was like 25.
Yeah, I only
maybe?
was there overnight and they let me go home the next morning.
Yeah. And then
the hernia that pinched off the small intestines. Yeah.
And you kept getting really sick.
Really bad pains. Horrific. Took me to the emergency room twice. The second time I went, 3 times, because I went for your wedding too.
Yeah.
And second time I went at home, they were going to do the CT scans with the dye, which is what I needed. But since I was allergic to that dye and I had to take steroids and stuff first, the people in radiology said, no, we won't give her one because she has to take these a day before. And they sent me home. And it was shortly after that I got really sick, throwing up and whatever. And Dad said, you need to go to the hospital. And I went. And that's when they finally did the CT scan and said, oh, my God.
And that was your stint of when you would get like the redness and everything, right? That was when that started? Or was that afterwards?
That would have been, you mean with the cancer from the breast cancer?
Yeah.
Oh, no. That was happening way before this.
Okay.
That started a couple years after my surgery.
Okay. So that happened where every time you would get sick or you would just
I'd
have
run a really
random
high
sickness.
fever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and where I had been radiated would turn red and burnt. And then today they don't say they did have that happen with other women. It was the radiation they gave back then was too intense.
So my wedding was I think it was 2 nights before the wedding.
2 nights
we were
before the
at
wedding.
the hospital. What was going through your mind then? Who were you like?
Well, I figured,
what the hell?
I figured they would send me home because I had been to the emergency room here at home for the same reason. And after the pains stop, and then I may not have them ever again. So I knew they would. But she did say to me in that emergency room, if we thought it had something to do with your hernia, because they knew I had a hernia then from the surgery I'd had when I was 40-something, or or 50. I was 50 at that time. If we thought something was being pinched off, we'd have you up and getting a CT right now. But we think it's fine. It feels fine when we push on it and everything. So then the pain was gone, so they sent me home.
Okay. And then...
And I was fine for your wedding.
Yes. Yeah. Completely fine.
No.
Yeah.
Anytime, even at home here, once I went to the emergency room and the pain subsided, I was fine.
Okay. So, going through all that, and was Amanda in New York yet?
Yeah.
Okay. So, how did it feel going through that, knowing your kids were far away from you?
I didn't think these little things, I didn't think they were anything major. Like, even the night your dad took me, or was it the next morning? No, it was Friday morning. Your dad took me to the emergency room. Then he had to go to work, so Aunt Linda came and Timmy came. And they stayed with me. I didn't think it was that serious. Until as the night went on, I got sicker and sicker. And that's when they said, we're going to do a CT scan. And I don't remember a whole lot after that. I remember a surgeon coming in and saying to your dad, we're going to do emergency surgery on her tomorrow morning. Her small intestines have been pinched off from this hernia, and nothing's getting through there, and it looks like it's getting ready to burst. And
so
if
you
it
were
bursts,
almost septic.
I was almost septic. They just got it. They told me when they opened, what did they take out, 2 feet?
Yeah.
And they said it was actually gangrene. Yeah.
My God.
Yeah.
Okay. So we fast forward a couple years. And your cancer is back. It had been 21 years, correct?
That was a shock. That was a real shock. Because when I first saw that mammogram, it looked like nothing to me. It didn't look like the original. And they thought so too. They thought, it's just minute. It's really nothing. We'll go ahead and I think we should biopsy it and that and see. So I was kind of, it'll be fine. It's not anything. It'll be fine. And then when they biopsied it, and they were shocked that it was back, and it was close to the same area it had been. It was like, okay, we're going to have to operate. You can, at this point, you're going to have to at least have one breast removed. And I said, no, I'm not. They're both going. I'm not putting up with this crazy stuff ever again. Comes the third time the cancer comes back.
Yeah.
So, yeah, the double mastectomy didn't affect me that much. It did when I first came home. I remember crying to your dad saying, what did they do to me? Look at this. I have to go through this. What did I ever do to have to go through this again? Then I was feeling sorry for myself then. I calmed down. And then when I saw my original oncologist, who's the head of oncology now, he said, we're going to get you through this. It has not spread. Only to the one lymph node in the right arm. And there's a new kind of chemo. It's not as bad. You don't have to sit here for 4 hours. Yours will take 20 minutes. And it works really good. So, did the chemo again. Went to the radiation again. Everything was good.
And you had your daughter and your grandson living with you.
Yes.
How did that feel going through all that?
Oh, that wasn't a bother at all. That kept me going.
Yeah.
Even now, going through treatment with you guys here, I wouldn't be here talking like this. I'd be sitting on the couch, moaning and just being tired and disgusted. Yins keep me going right now. I could tell you that's a definite. Definite.
Yeah. And then after the first round or the second round, Harlow was brewing. And then you finished your treatments, and then Harlow came. And then you were good for, was it almost 2 years?
Yeah.
Almost 2 years.
Yeah.
And now it's back again.
Yeah. It is Not the original, all started in my left side. But with this, when I had the double mastectomy, they found some in the first lymph node, which they removed. Now they found some in a mammary gland, which was very close to that first lymph node.
Now, I thought they took all that out when they gave a double
I thought they did too. But what they don't do, they don't take a bunch of pads, the lymph nodes out, because they don't want you to get the lymphedema in your arm and all that hurt and problems and swelling. So she only took the first pad out of my arm. Where my right arm, they took 2 pads out. Mm-hmm. I still have a little bit of lymph nodes in there. She probably should have taken out more, but because there was no cancer in the breast, they thought it's fine.
Yeah.
It's okay. You know, we're not going to worry about that.
Yeah.
They told me what happened was when they put me on that medicine, I don't even remember, what was that called? You know, the stuff they give you after breast cancer. I was on it for like 8 years with the first one.
Tamoxifen?
No, Arimidex.
Okay.
Didn't work. He said, that's what happened. He said, some women at your age, the Arimidex, it's supposed to even kilter your hormones and stuff, your estrogen, didn't work. So it's just stop taking it, throw it away. It's not working.
Okay.
And that's what I'm on now, which is a combination of drugs that does work for me. And that's the shot and the Ibrance. And they actually did say that you could be on the Ibrance for as long. This isn't like a typical chemo. And he said any women he's had this on, tumors have shrunk 60%. Now mine is not that big, you know. So they're hoping when they look at it with my PET scan in the middle of January, it's going to be so small that the surgeon will say, okay, let's just take out those nodes and get rid of it. So this surgery hopefully is not going to be that bad. It's going to be in and out.
Yeah. Yes, hopefully. And then we're done with this.
Then we're done with this. Daggone it. Actually, me and the oncologist thought the surgeon would take it out and I'd get radiation. But then the surgeon said, hey, listen, it's her 3rd try. Gave him all kind of stuff and said, think about the chemo. Then he said, when I thought about it, yeah, the shot and the Ibrance together worked very well. Let's do that just to be sure, because I'm not even a stage. I'm just considered, like, I'm not metastasized. I'm just considered advanced breast cancer because it's come back 3 times.
Yeah.
I'm not alone. A lady I was getting chemo with, that was her 4th round.
Oh my God. That's
4th time with breast
insane.
cancer. And that's your estrogen levels and stuff. So,
well,
I feel confident. I do. I feel confident with this.
So where does that come from? Because this is your 3rd round.
I don't know. I don't know. This is not like me, Jackie. To me, I always thought, well, hence my name, Debbie Downer. I thought I was always a downer. But I can remember telling my girlfriend when she had Hodgkin's, you know, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, I don't know how you do it. Because if I ever had cancer, I couldn't do it. And then here I am.
Yeah. Like boom, boom, again.
I don't know.
Again.
I have wished I had an explanation for that.
Yeah.
I think my mom and dad are watching me and they're doing something to make me make it through this like this. I do. Because I don't know where I get this.
Yeah.
I would think I would say, nope, done completely. And there are days I feel like that. I just told the oncologist that last week because I had written that I was pretty depressed.
Yeah.
But again, I mean, it's Christmas. You get let down. Christmas, you prepare, then it's gone in a day. So, of course, you get a little. And I said, I think that's what it is. But my grandkids are coming. I'll be fine. Grandkids came. I'm fine.
Yeah. So, do you feel any guilt inside of you for all the stuff that we've had to go through? And I'm not saying you should feel guilty because I don't blame you for any of it.
Yeah,
of
the
course,
breast
but...
cancer. The scare with the fact that now you and Amanda both have really dense breast tissue. Okay, so you're going to go through this. I feel bad for that. But then I have to remember, both of my sisters had dense breast tissues, and so do their kids. You know, so yeah, I feel bad. The other illnesses, no, I brought them on myself.
Yeah.
As far as I'm concerned, you know, that's something I did. You guys won't repeat what I do because I did something different. But no, I honestly don't think you or Amanda are going to have any problem with the breast cancer because it's so advanced now.
Yeah, they watch
And
me
they watch
very
it
closely.
Yes, definitely. When they know you have a history, they are right on that stuff.
Yeah, they told me that pretty much.
And they told your sister that too.
Yeah.
So
they were like, we'll probably catch it at a 0 or a 1, like, and that's even going to be rare to be at a 1 at this point every 6 months. When I had a mental breakdown, we're going to go back. How did that make you feel knowing that you had been through the same
terrible.
thing?
Terrible. And being that we kind of had a history, like my sisters or my nieces or whatever had depression and stuff, terrible. I felt like that was my fault. That somewhere I screwed up. I was a bad mother. I did something wrong. Terrible. So that's why I raced down to you. No matter what Amanda said and blah, 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 whatever, I raced down to you because I felt like I caused this. You needed me and I needed to be there.
Yeah.
That's it, period.
What was going through your head like the week before when it was all happening? Because I know Casey was
I was
messaging
terrified.
you.
I was terrified because I know how deep and terrible that could be. So I was terrified. I was already getting my bags packed. Yeah. Seriously. Even if you didn't ask me or Casey didn't ask me, I'd have still been there. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So to see me like that, were you having any flashbacks of what you went through?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely was having some flashbacks with that. It wasn't easy to see that. I probably actually cried a couple times when I was there and you didn't even know it. But yeah, I did. I knew you could get through it though. I knew you knew how. So it gave me a little bit of hope as days went on. I could see you picking yourself up a little bit more and just tiny baby steps, but that's all you needed to start.
Yeah.
So yeah, I knew we'd get there.
Well, I was happy you were there because I definitely needed you there. I actually needed you there because Casey was gone and I wasn't allowed to be alone with the kids. But also I'm happy it was you that came because you had been through that and I knew you knew where I was coming from and I needed that support.
Yeah, I knew how you felt. Been there, done that. Yeah.
And I feel like, I don't know about you, we've always had a close relationship my whole life. But at that moment, it got a little closer because
that's nice to hear.
We both went through hell. I don't know about you with all your sicknesses, but I can imagine like that is something you can't really help. So it's like, okay.
Right.
But when you have a mental breakdown, it's almost like you feel like it's all your fault. And it's like, what did I do wrong? So when I knew you had gone through that and I started my healing journey, it meant a lot for you to be down there. And, you know, being a child and going through a lot of the crap that, you know, you were sick a lot and everything like that, it did create some stuff with me, but I never blame you. Yeah, because it's not your fault. You know what I mean? And there is a lot of stuff to work through. And I constantly think about what you had to work through.
Yeah, it's
because
part of life, I guess.
It's just like, yeah. I mean, I choose to remember the good times. And so when I went through my breakdown and had to go back and look at the history and see what was the root of it, it was shocking to me because I was always the person that was like, yeah, middle-class family, you know, I was a baton twirler, I did this, I did that. I never would have thought in a million years that
this
stuff like that
you.
Would be the root of where that stuff was coming from and partially responsible. And so if you could go back to the beginning of all of this, Would you have done anything different with us?
With you guys?
Yes.
No.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't think so. No, because it was all me. I mean, me being sad and depressed and that. With the times you were born and times in our life, you brought so much joy, you guys, that no. Mm-hmm. It would be me. I would change a lot of things in my life.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
But not with you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thank you for being on here and sharing all of this stuff.
You're welcome.
And your strength is obvious. I always say my mother is
Why people
Superwoman.
say that too, and I don't feel like that. I just feel normal.
I mean, it's not normal.
Yeah, that's what people tell me. Yeah, that's what people tell me. But...
It is a lot of strength. You've been through a lot of stuff. More than what, like 3 people's lifetimes they would go through. Like,
there are some people that have never been to a hospital and never had a surgery.
Yeah.
And they will live their whole life like that. Yeah, it sucks to be me sometimes.
I mean, and I try to help you with feeling better.
Yeah, I know you do.
You know, doing all of those things.
Yeah,
like,
all you kids do. Yeah.
And it always, they say, I actually saw something on the internet the other day, and it was like millennials, parents to their kids, themselves, and their parents.
Mm-hmm.
Because like the way we grew up, like there wasn't a lot of like my kids are in all sorts of therapies and stuff. That shit didn't really exist whenever we were younger. Like
Right.
you didn't do that with your kids. You know what I mean? They just did it. You know, they just went through the shit, and you guys had to work. So we were all kind of latchkey kids, and it wasn't like, it was so different. So I feel like there's a lot of people out there that might feel, you know, a resentment towards their parents. I'm here to say, like, investigate that, because you shouldn't. If they were working and none of it, you know, they were doing what was best for you. And I know that's the way you were thinking, right?
Yeah.
Like, and I never resented my mother for working.
It was, if I worked, you guys could get more. And of course, I want better for you than I had. And I had it pretty good. So I knew I had to work hard to make it better for you guys.
Yeah. And I mean, and we all tailor to, you know, what we want, you know, like I'm at home with my kids. I want to stay at home with my kids as much as I can until I can't anymore. And I'm hoping that can, you know, my podcast can be something, and that's the way I get to stay home with my kids, is I control my own company again. But like, it just from your child, I don't think any of us resent you working, dad working, anything that happened. It was a lot to go through.
Mm-hmm.
I'm through it. You know, I think maybe you have one child that might need to work on it a little bit more.
Yeah, for sure.
But other than that, it's like, you are Superwoman, and you've been through a ton.
Well, thanks,
and you're
because
like,
I don't think of myself as that.
It's like Iron Woman. There's an Iron Man, but you're like Iron Woman, because all this shit just kept getting thrown at you, and you kept just like pushing it away and pushing it away and pushing it away. And it's very inspirational for a lot of people.
Good. I'm glad to hear that.
And you're almost...
I hope I can help somebody.
What, you're almost 70 now? I'm going to call you out. And you're still here after all this shit.
Yeah, I know.
Oh my God.
Yins are stuck with me.
I know. That's what we said. You're going to outlive all of us. So there's that. So thank you so much for being on here again. It's always a pleasure to have my mama with me. And thank you everybody for listening. Do you have any last things to say?
No, I just hope maybe someone will listen to this and it might help them a little bit, that other people go through this stuff.
Yeah.
You're not alone.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for that. Welcome to the end of another episode of the Mama Jack Real Raw Parenting Podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Remember, parenting is a journey filled with ups and downs, and it's okay to make mistakes along the way. The Mama Jack Podcast is here to provide you with support, guidance, and real-life stories from fellow parents who are navigating the challenges of raising children. If you have any questions, topics you'd like me to cover, or stories you'd like to share, please reach out to me. I love hearing from my listeners and incorporating your experiences into future episodes. You can find me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Podpage, all under The Mama Jack, TheMamaJac. Thank you for tuning in. Remember, you're not alone in this journey, and together we can create a supportive community of real, raw parents. Stay tuned for more episodes filled with laughter, tears, and everything in between. Until next time, keep being the amazing parent that you are.